You're tuned in to the New Life Fellowship audio service. Here at New Life, we believe in facilitating a worship service that reflects the abundant new life that Jesus wants to give us in John 10:10. As you listen to today's sermon, feel free to share points that stand out to you on social media and use the hashtag NewLifeAU to join the national conversation. Enjoy today's message.
Well, let me just get into this. I have a friend, a really good friend of mine, and he just got married and decided to buy a house. And when he was looking for a house, he decided that he would settle in this one with a swimming pool. Because when he was a little kid, he nearly drowned and never learned how to swim. So he thought the best thing to do would be buy a house with a pool. What he didn't realize that pools are lots of work, especially in Michigan, because you have to close them for the winter. They get filled with junk, and then you have to clean them out. Not realizing the work, it took him a while to get the pool open. Well, when he finally was able to get the pool open, he's already had a son. And so this little son he put into a little walker and had him walk around the sidewalk around the pool while he was vacuuming. While he was vacuuming the shallow end of the pool, he heard a sound that he did not want to hear. And when he looked, to his horror, his son was 10 feet down on the bottom of the pool, and he had yet learned how to swim. So he had to have a quick moment, a quick decision. What do I do? Do I risk my life trying to save my son, or do I save my own life and watch my son die before me? He did not think very long. He jumped into the deep end. Overalls, long sleeves shirt, not the best swimming wear, and he frantically kicked his way down to his son, picked him up in his arms, kicking and struggling, got to the edge of the pool only to frail his leg out to push him back into the middle, swam to the other side, lifted his son up, expecting to have to do CPR, except for in all of that time, his son was laying there, breathing perfectly fine. I'm so glad Dad jumped in the pool that morning to save my life. Otherwise, I would have been here. So Dad was able to save my life. Hopefully you'll see how I returned the favor. Anyways, my parents ended up living in that house. They're still in the house even though the pool's gone. They ended up having another son. My dad did learn how to swim. I grew up swimming. It was great. So my little brother was born 3 years after me. Growing up, I thought life was perfect. Maybe not quite Leave It to Beaver, but I thought everything was great until one day that my mom was driving me to the grocery store. And on the way to the grocery store, she was driving, and halfway there, she started to cry and then sob. And I am not very old, maybe 8, 9 years old, and I'm thinking, Mom is the one who always makes me not cry. What am I supposed to do to her? And so she pulled into the parking lot, and it got worse, and I awkwardly just sit there, don't know what to do, and she finally gets composure, and she blurts out, "Your father and I are getting divorced, and Dad's going to jail." I don't remember what else she said. The shock of the moment, that's all I remember. But life changed. Come to find out, my dad was a huge drug dealer in the city of Grand Rapids, and he went to jail for drug trafficking. What started out as a fun little addiction of marijuana that Mom and him partook in, my dad just kept going. My mom wouldn't. So my dad found another woman to party with, and that's why they got a divorce. But young kids, you adapt. My social life got better because, his dad's cool. He's a drug dealer, so I got more popular. And that's just what happened. Two sets of Christmas presents, 2 sets of birthday presents. I adapted, but deep down inside it hurt me. And the next big profound thing, that was when I was 8 or 9. When I was 16 years old, I was playing computer games, and this is going to make me sound old, but they used to make noises when you connected the modem. Like, And some of you might not even know what that sounds like anymore. But anyways, I was playing this computer game with my friend, and my mom took my brother to go to an intramural basketball game, and I was really winning and whipping my friend on this computer game, and the phone would interrupt the game. Kept interrupting the game, and I was getting mad because I'm like beating him like 20-2. And so I have to end the game, and I answer the phone, and they basically say, you need to get down. You need to get down here. And I'm like, well, I can't get hold of your dad, get him here, because your mom and your brother were in a serious car accident. So I call my dad, and my dad comes. Now you have to understand my dad. He is a big biker, big long beard, Viking-looking man. And drove Harley-Davidson motorcycle. One time when I was younger, he was pulling his bike out of the back of a pickup truck, and his friend let go of it, and to stabilize it, he grabbed it. In the process, his thumb got caught between the spokes and the fork and ripped it off. It was hanging by a thread, and my dad grabs it, walks into the house, gritting his teeth, and tells my mom, hey, take me to the med center. My dad didn't cry. My dad, however, when he came into that house, was sobbing like my mom was when her heart was broken by him. Because my dad loved my mom, always has, and always said that was the worst mistake of his life to do what he did. And he was sobbing, and of course, the waterworks started with me. We went to the hospital to come to find out that my brother was in a coma, ended up being in a coma for 3 days. My mom ended up being in a coma for 6 months, in which they couldn't tell us whether or not she was going to live for many of those months. So I have a confession. My least favorite part of pastoral ministry is hospital visits because of the trauma that I suffered when I was 16. It's hard for me to go and visit people in the hospital because of that. Anyways, during that time, my mom raised me, was not raised an Adventist. We were raised religious, but my mom was a Christian. She showed me the love of God. And when I saw her like that, I'm like, if serving God makes that happen to you, what's going to happen to me? And so in the process, I'm about to become an adult member of my church, and the bishop was in town, and they called me up and said, hey, you can become confirmed, just, come down, and they're telling me all this stuff, and I'm thinking, I don't even think God exists. So I tell them, I'm not sure if God exists. And they literally say, it doesn't matter. And the problem with cell phones, you don't have the same feel. But back then, they were slammed it down. It just doesn't make sense. But what happened was, when I slammed the phone down, it wasn't just on that lady across the line. It was on God. And I became an atheist. And went down a dark path. Now, what I wasn't realizing that God was doing things. And so what happened is that my dad in this whole experience decided to do something. He decided to come back home and take care of his 2 kids. And he decided to remarry my mom. His good friend, they're not friends anymore, his drug dealer friend came out of jail about the same time and divorced his wife and hung out with strippers half his age. My dad decided to remarry my mother, who was brain injured and wouldn't be able to produce the benefits of marriage, if you catch what I'm saying. He did it because he wanted to take care of his family. And it impacted me, and it impacted me more later when I realized that but God was doing something even in one of my darkest moments. And so as I was going down this dark path, the love of my mother left this gaping hole in me, and I tried to fill it with stuff, every video game system. I bought a Harley-Davidson. My dream car, as I was going down my dark path, was a hearse. You guys know what a hearse is? Those of you that don't know what a hearse is what you put the coffin in. What? I didn't work at a funeral home. I just wanted one, and I'd owned 2 in my lifetime. So, but that didn't bring me happiness. So maybe success would. Played football, just celebrated the 20-year anniversary of our state championship team for the state of Michigan. The first Class A team to win from the west side from west of Lansing. And we won, but then it just, okay, now what? So success didn't work. Stuff didn't work, so relationships, ended up getting a girlfriend. Email was recently invented, and so we were in everything, and she decided that instead of calling me, she would dump me by email 2 weeks before prom. So that didn't work. All the girls since then until my wife didn't work. And even getting married to my wife wouldn't have filled that hole. It just doesn't work. And I'll share more on that in a moment. The thing that would work the best, but it ended up doing the most damage, was drugs. I fell in the footsteps of my father. I started with marijuana, got into drinking and doing that kind of stuff. But I had this ethical rule that I would only do stuff that was grown. So I'd only do mushrooms and marijuana. It's natural. God gave it to us. But anyways, I did ecstasy a couple of times, and it was fun, but I just didn't want to become like my dad and do cocaine. However, I would go to these spring break parties, and in 2000, the biggest party was happening in New Orleans. It's called Mardi Gras, and in 2 weeks, I came for the last week of it. And in the process, I said, okay, throw all rules out. I will do whatever my hand finds. And so I couldn't find any marijuana. I ended up in a van with some guy, and he pulled out a vial that kind of looked like that. And he said it was pure LSD straight from the lab. And my dad never could find LSD. It was kind of a dream of his to do it, so I could one-up my dad. And so the vial came to me, and I pulled out the stopper, and it was, I filled it up. And he said, take a couple of drops, and your night will be changed. And I accidentally squeezed the whole drop. 30 or 60 drops. That's 30 or 60 times the amount that you're supposed to do. I thought, I used to take shrooms by the handful when other people would just take one. Maybe I'll be okay. 12 hours later, I woke up in a hospital strapped down to the bed with amnesia, one of the scariest moments of life. You're in some hospital, you don't know why you're there, you don't know your name, you don't know who you are, you don't know what's going on. It was freaky. I started to piece together, memories started coming back, and I started to realize what happened that night. What happened is the trip went sour. And I started to think that I was the devil. And then this spiral came as I sat next to this bench and told my friend to get lost. And I would go down into this tunnel, and there was this sweet melodic voice and this euphoric experience that would come over me, and it would say, I could give you this the rest of your life. And then there was this voice in the back of my head that said, you don't want to do that. And there was this tug of war going on, and finally, as I was almost at the end of the tunnel, the voice said with a little more emphatic, but still soft, you really don't want to do that. I stopped and asked, why not? And everything went black. And I was sitting on a chair in the middle of the darkness, thinking, I've been here 6,000 years, what's 1,000 more? And then everything came back to life, and I'm riding on some creature, and people are worshiping me, And I'm thinking, this is great. And I look up into the sky, and fire's coming down from heaven, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want that. And everything came back to reality. I'm back in New Orleans, and there's a set of tracks right in front of me, and I look up, and there's a trolley coming. One, like a old-fashioned car train. I literally jump out of the way just in the nick of the time. It goes by me, and I'm like freaking out, and I run into a hotel, fall into the fetal position, bawling my eyes out, and then the paramedics come, and I proceed to punch one of them, and that's why I got strapped in, woke up the next morning. The thing with LSD is it doesn't leave your system. So the next few months, as I'm working on the graveyard shift at the grocery store, and I'm trying to, put the groceries back, every once in a while the Campbell soup cans would turn alive and try to eat me. It's like right where the red and white label are, it would split open and have a mouth of fangs and try to bite me. It's not a pleasant experience and something you can't work with, so I go home sick many times, not because I was sick like with the flu, but because my head was in a full-out trip state. And one of the times that I was experiencing this, it was a full-out trip, hours long, and I felt this tremendous amount of guilt in me, and I went around and apologized to everybody, and I went and apologized to my mom, and I said, let's go back to church. And so that was Saturday night. So the next Sunday, we went to service in the cathedral in downtown Grand Rapids, and I was there, and the priest got up to speak. And as he was giving his homily, I was a good student, and I could understand deep things. Even in my drug-induced stupor, when I was going to college, I still managed straight A-minuses and A's. He's speaking, and he sounds like Charlie Brown, the Peanuts, when the adults speak. And I'm like, what is this? God's not here. And so I sat in the back of that cathedral, and I just knelt down on the kneeler, and I just prayed, God, or whoever's out there, I know there's a higher power that's good. I just know it. Please show me the way. And I just kept repeating that over and over again. And then I concluded the prayer, took my mom home, and forgot about it. A couple of days later, I was back from work, trying to go to bed while flipping through channels, and a knock came on the door. So I went to the door, and there's two girls and a guy, and they're rattling off stuff about religion. And then what happens at first in my mind is, when I went to school in Grand Rapids in the 80s and 90s was very religious. In order to be cool and popular, you had to be a part of the Christian community. And of course, at 16, I was not. And in the high school, there was this group called Young Life, and all of the popular kids belonged to that group. My friends would go there, not because they believed in God, but because they thought the girls were pretty. They would try to get me to go, but I was like, why would I want to go there? And they proceed to tell me how easy they were. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't sell out, and I thought, why are the popular, easy girls at school calling themselves Christian when they're no different than my atheist friends that are girls? The other thing that profoundly affected me and pushed me away from Christianity was when I would party, my friends would party with me, we would wake up Sunday morning hungover and totally blown out, and they would want me to come to church with them, and I would think, what's it? It's not doing you any good. You're just like me. In fact, one of them, I told them, he was trying to get me to go, and I said, listen, when you die, and when I die, we're going to the same place. Don't fool yourself. So hypocrisy became a big reason why I was an atheist. Living around all these people who said one thing and did another, and then wanted to come and beat me over the head with the Bible. I wanted nothing to do with it. So back to these people at my front door spitting out jargon at me, and I'm like, oh, I just couldn't do it. So I'm about to reject them when the guy just saw something in me, something going on. He grabbed the flyer and shoved it into me, and I grabbed it, and then I said, I have my own church, and slammed the door on it. And then that voice came, the voice from before, and haunted me to pick up the flyer and read it 3 times. And what I saw was at the front of the flyer, it said Revelation Promises Hope, and there was a collage of believers of all races together. And I was like, I thought Christians were racist. What is this? It's literally my first thought. This, if God is real, this is what it would look like. So I flipped it open. Meet the speaker, and it said ex-atheist, ex-punk rocker, ex-skateboarder, and he's wearing a suit and holding a Bible. Looked at the topics, why so many denominations have gotten so good, something about hypocrisy, and then like weird stuff like what's the mark of the beast, the Antichrist? No one talks about that. This looked like a good thing to go to, but my friends by now wouldn't go with me because the Christian ones the ones that were Christian I got rid of, and my atheist ones definitely wouldn't go. And I didn't want to go by myself because what if they're going to give me Kool-Aid laced with cyanide? What to do? So I came up with a plan. I said, okay, God. And I remembered the prayer. Okay, God, if this is you, and you sent these people, this is what I want you to do. You have the guy come back by himself without the 2 girls and have him take me to the meetings. And so I go outside and I sit on the porch and I'm thinking, I used to sell world's finest chocolate bars to go to trips to Cedar Point and to Chicago. You go down the road and you don't come back. So I got you, God. So I'm sitting there, but deep down inside, I don't want to get him. I want him to come through. And so I'm waiting and getting very disappointed. And I finally I turn around to go back inside and I open up the door and I give one last look with the thought in my head, God, I knew you didn't. And there he was, by himself, walking down the street. He came up to me and saw me sitting there, and I rushed up to him and I said, hey, you want to take me to these meetings? And he said, sure thing, brother. The guy's like dressed up. I'm in chains and black and multicolored hair and yeah. And he called me a brother. And he took me to those meetings. Now the meetings were halfway over. It was 6 weeks long. We're in the 3rd week. And I had to do some catching up. So I listened to 2 weeks worth of meetings in 2 days. The catch up. 2 weeks later, I'm baptized Seventh-day Adventist Christian. The message was so amazing. It was incredible. I was like, where were these people my whole life? Why didn't they tell me this stuff? The simple answer why there's so much suffering was right there in the scriptures, crystal clear. It still hurts. Bad things do hurt, but it's not God doing them. All of these amazing things was so incredible to me. And when I accepted Jesus and when I went forward for the baptismal appeal, that night I went to bed and I prayed and gave my heart to God and I fell asleep. In the middle of the night, I don't know if I was dreaming or what, there was a shadow in the foot of my bed. And it looked at me with a very disappointed shaking of his head. And it said, I don't want you in my life anymore, be gone. And he went out the window. And I woke up the next morning, and the Bible worker who was working with me said the color had gone back to my face. I normally have very red cheeks, but at that time I was very white and sickly, gothic looking. And he said, there's just something different about you. And it was weird. I could think straight again. When I came back to school here, I could do math in my head for the first time in my life. I was sitting in astronomy class, and Professor Kutzner's writing on the board, and I'm like, 65? And he's like, yeah, that's right. And I was like, So he healed me and upgraded me. Gave a burden. I love the message. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, sometimes people I hate the doctrines. I'm like, and then it's not the doctrines. It's the things that buried atop of the doctrines. Our doctrines paint such a beautiful picture of Jesus. I love them. And I fell in love with them, and I had to share them. So I went and got trained on how to share. And one of the first things that happened is that my dad, I don't have time to tell the story, but he was in a motorcycle accident. He got laid off from work, and he just had nothing better to do but go to a set of meetings that I told him to go to. My brother told me, "You will win, Mom. You might win me. You'll never win, Dad." Because of my urging, Dad went to those meetings. He was the first one in my family. My first convert was my father. So my father gets baptized with my mother a year after I was baptized. My brother did all the wild stuff. We prayed him in. He got baptized. He's now a pastor in Lansing, Michigan. It's just a beautiful thing. 7 years I traveled around the United States in Norway and Iceland, giving Bible studies and sharing my faith. I just am addicted to the message. I have to give it. I took a call to California and worked as a bivocational pastor for 3.5 years and said, if I'm going to get paid on the cheap to do this, I might as well study to get paid a little bit better so I can have a family. Came back here for undergrad, met my wife here, but we did not go out during that time, and we ended up going to Cuba together after college, and then we were dating by then, and it was there that I was like, hey, she's it. All the crazy stories and the wild stuff, nothing compares. I just don't have time to share all the awesome things that have happened. But I can tell you this. John 10:10 says, the thief cometh to steal, to kill, and destroy. But I've come to give you life and life more abundant. And it has been. You know, from the beginning, when he was trying to teach me what the love of God was like through my father, doing what he did to his family, I wouldn't have been able to even have the wife that I have today if it wasn't for him. Without him, I could not get the grades that I get. Without him, I couldn't do the ministry because I would either be dead on the bottom of a pool, smushed by a trolley, or fried wandering around homeless because my brain was that bad. He would taught me how to love and how to put... Listen, I'm back to that. My dad showed me what a man is. And there's many... I'm a pastor now. And there's many men, including pastors of our denomination, that still don't understand what it means to love their wife. I wonder if their wife was in a brain injury, would they stick around? I want to stick around. It's all about dying to your spouse, and I want to be that type of person. All these wonderful things, I just want to end with this. There's one thing every time I tell my story, there's one thing I realize. God is real. And he loves you. He loves you. And the second thing is evangelism works. It doesn't have to be a meeting. It could be singing a song, giving a hug, just helping somebody. But evangelism works, and he wants you to be a part of it. He can do it all himself. There's a huge blessing in you bringing the love of God to somebody else. And then finally, it is true. I am speaking at a set of meetings. And I don't know who's supposed to be there. I was supposed to be at that one in Grand Rapids, and God allowed a group of young people to get lost, get out of their territory, and randomly show up on my road, randomly knock on the door, randomly run out of flyers to take me to a meeting. If there's someone on campus that Chaplain Bourget or myself can bless in these meetings, and you know them, or it's you yourself, invite them or come. Those are the three things. Let us realize God is real and that he loves you. Let us be a part of evangelism. The talent in this room alone, let alone this campus, is more than enough to change the world, because God only used 12 before. There's much more than that here. The potential is endless to change the community and the world. There are people like me in this community. I see them. When I shop at Harding's, when I'm walking around, when I'm anywhere, I see people that were like me, and I'm dying for them to have the message. so that they can know the love of Jesus. So let us do our part in whatever God is asking us to do. Let us not resist. That's my prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, you're real, you love us, and you do so much. I'm a living miracle. Help me not to forget it. And if anyone's struggling right now to accept your love, just let go. Let them let go. You're amazing and you love us. And help us make that love contagious by sharing our faith. I pray for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for listening to the New Life Fellowship audio service. We pray that today's message was a blessing to you and that you will continue to tune in. New Life is located in the Seminary Chapel on the campus of Andrews University, and our services are held every Saturday at 11:45 a.m. Keep up with the latest information about what's happening at New Life by subscribing to our podcast on iTunes and through our social media connections on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Simply type in New Life AU in the search bar and you'll find us. Until next time, may the Lord bless you with a new love, new integrity, new faith, and a new experience.